Muy buenos días a todas las personas que están conectadas en este momento. Mi nombre es Camila Flores, hago parte del equipo de Consejería Académica y Relaciones Internacionales y hoy estaremos realizando un webinar con la Universidad de Leeds. Nosotros tenemos un convenio con la Universidad de Leeds que le otorga un descuento del 50% en el valor de la matrícula para un estudiante de el Master in Science and Computer, Master in Electronics and Electrical Engineering o en el Master de Water Hygiene and Sanitation Engineering. Adicionalmente, se le otorga un 50% del valor del descuento en la matrícula para un programa que ellos elijan y un 20% de descuento para todos los demás estudiantes. Quiero darle la bienvenida en este momento a Megan Carlyle y a Juan Pablo Fonseca. Megan, thank you for being here.
Hi, morning everyone, and thanks for joining us today.
You can now start the presentation.
Lovely. Could we move on to the next slide? I've just got a little introduction here. So morning everyone, thank you for joining us today in this webinar about the University of Leeds. I'm going to speak in English because I'm English and it's a little bit easier for me, but if you want to put questions in Spanish, I do also speak Spanish, so that's fine. So a little bit about me. So I'm originally from West Yorkshire, which is the region of the UK where Leeds is located. I've worked at the university for 2 years now and started in this role in the international office last October. So my job is to support students from Latin America who are applying to the University of Leeds throughout the whole process. I also previously worked in Bogota in a university over there, so I also can speak Spanish too, yeah. And there's an email address on screen there that you can see, so if you have any questions after the webinar or you would like to set up an individual meeting to discuss kind of your plans for studying at Leeds, then we'd be more than happy to help with that. We also have one of our alumni here, so if we could have the next slide, I'll pass over to him and he can introduce himself.
Hello everyone, I'm Juan Pablo Fonseca Zamora. I don't know if you want me to do my introduction in English or in Spanish. Anyway, I did my master's last year in transport planning and environment here in Leeds. I was a Culture scholar and I worked also as a international student ambassador. So I know like the kind of questions people would ask when interested in coming into Leeds. Since I graduated, I started in a graduate position here in Leeds. So, well, that's it. Megan, I'll pass over to you.
Lovely. So Juan's going to talk a little bit later about his experience. So just a quick overview of what we're going to talk about in this session today. So I'm going to talk about why you might be considering studying at Leeds and some of the reasons you might want to think about Leeds. Then overview of the City of Leeds, which is not necessarily that well known, and the university itself, as well as some of the support and opportunities that we provide for our students. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the application process, entry requirements, the fees for our programs and some of the scholarships that you might want to look at. Then I'm going to hand over to Juan for him to share his experience as a student with you. And then we'll come back for questions at the end. So if we could have the next slide, please. So some of the reasons why you might be considering the University of Leeds and some of the things that you might want to think about when you're looking at universities in the UK. So the first thing to mention is our academic reputation and our reputation for research. So Leeds is one of the top 100 universities in the world according to the QS World Ranking. And we are also highly recognised for our research. So over 80% of our research was rated as world leading or internationally excellent in the last Research Excellence Framework in 2014. So we're part of the Russell Group of research intensive universities in the UK. As well as high quality research and teaching, we also provide our graduates with real transferable skills for their careers after they finish the programme. And that's why we're one of the top 10 most targeted UK universities by graduate recruiters. So if you choose to study a master's or a PhD at Leeds, you will leave with the skills that graduate employers are really looking for. As well as the kind of academic and also employability skills that you'll develop, it's also important to consider the experience that you'll have as a student at the universities that you're looking at studying in. So Leeds was recognised as third in the UK for student experience by the Times Higher Education, and we also have consistently high rankings in the National Student Survey. So our students are really happy at Leeds and have a really good experience here. The city itself was regarded as one of the UK's best places to live by the Sunday Times, which is one of our national newspapers. And we're also one of the most international universities in the UK. We have a very diverse student population, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in detail. And we also have this kind of internationally recognised research and really strong support structures for international students. Could I have the next slide, please? So this slide tells you a little bit about the City of Leeds. So you can see on the map where we're located. We're very central in the UK, which makes it nice and easy to explore other parts of the country. So we're about 2 hours from London by train and about 1 hour from Manchester. We're the third largest city in the UK, and we're located in the region of Yorkshire, which has lots of outstanding areas of natural beauty, like national parks, which are really easy to explore from the city. It's also easy to explore other countries from Leeds. So we have 2 airports nearby, Leeds Bradford Airport, which is about 20 minutes from the city, and Manchester Airport, which is about 1 hour by train. So lots of our students make the most of the opportunity to travel to other European countries while they're here at Leeds. We're one of the UK's largest centres for financial and legal services. And we also have lots of opportunities for you to kind of make the most of in the city. So you can see a little bit on this slide of what the city looks like. And we have lots of things like music, sports, art, theatre, and all the kind of things that you'd expect in sort of a major city. If you're a football fan, you will have seen that Leeds United have recently been promoted to the Premier League. So there will be some good quality football in the city next year. Could I have the next slide, please? So moving on from the city, I'm just going to talk about the university and give you a little bit of an overview. So you can see on this slide what our campus looks like. So you'll see that we're all on a single campus. So the area that's all kind of lit up a little bit brighter is our campus. So that means all your teaching facilities are in one place rather than spread across the city, as well as social kind of facilities like the Students' Union and our gym, which is the Edge, is also marked on there. But we're very close to the city centre. So to walk from the train station is about a 15-minute walk. Leeds is quite a compact city and it's very safe to walk around. So you really get the best of both worlds by having all of your facilities on one campus, but also being in the heart of a big city. Could I have the next slide, please? So the university was established in 1904, so we're more than 100 years old now, and we're part, as I mentioned earlier, of the Russell Group. So these are some of the 24 most prestigious and research-intensive universities in the UK, and our research informs the teaching on the programmes. We are one of the largest universities in the UK, so we have over 38,000 students at the moment, with over 9,000 international students. So around 25% of our student cohort is international. At the moment, we have about 170 students from Latin America, so quite a good number. The biggest group is from Mexico, and then Colombia, Chile and Peru are probably our next kind of biggest country cohorts from Latin America. And the Latin American students tend to meet each other quite easily in Leeds and tend to form a really nice sort of friendly community. We also have one of the widest ranges of programmes in the UK. So we have over 300 master's programmes for you to choose from across our 7 faculties, which I'm going to tell you about now, if we can have the next slide. So our 300 master's programmes are split across our 7 faculties, which you can see here. So it's important for you to do your own research into the subject area that you're interested in. I'm just going to touch on a few of the ones that are most popular with our Latin American students. So business is very popular. Our business school offers programmes in marketing, management, accounting and finance, economics, and human resource management. And so a real wide range of subjects there, and focuses on students' professional development skills. Engineering and physical sciences is also a very popular area with Latin American and Colombian students particularly. So that is one of the largest research groups of engineers in the UK, split across 5 different disciplines: so mechanical engineering, civil, electronic and electrical, chemical and process engineering, and computing. We also have a really exciting environment faculty, which is one of those kind of areas where Leeds is really world leading. So that includes programs in sustainability, earth and environment, geography, and also transport studies, which is what Juan studied with us. We also have another area that's quite popular is social sciences, so that includes law, but also areas like sociology, politics, international relations, global development, conflict studies, areas like that, which are quite interesting to international students. We have the next slide. So just to give you an idea of some of the kind of particular areas that are recognised as outstanding at Leeds, I'm not going to read through all of these, but you'll be able to pick out the information that's relevant to you. These are taken from international and national rankings. And it kind of shows the academic prestige of our programmes, which is really important in terms of your future development. So obviously the higher ranked the programme is, the more kind of impressive that looks on your CV, and also important when you're looking at applying for funding, because I know that funding bodies like Toefl take into account the ranking of the subjects that you're applying for. We have the next slide, please. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about outside of your programme, some of the opportunities and support that you can engage with during your time at Leeds. So I mentioned earlier that Leeds is one of the top 10 most targeted UK universities by graduate employers. And here's some of the reasons why. So we have an award-winning careers centre which supports our students with things like careers fairs, but also one-to-one appointments where you can get feedback on your CV, have mock interviews, work towards assessment centres. This support is supplemented by dedicated employability teams in the school. So this is really important that if you're applying to a business programme, you'll have access to employability support from the business school, for example. And I know law and engineering have a similar kind of offering. So that means that you can have this extra careers counselling from tutors who are experts in your particular field. Another way to boost your CV while you're at Leeds is part-time jobs, and a lot of our international students do that. And we have a service called JobLink, which allows international students to help international students to find part-time work. We also have lots of engagement with local, national and international employers, so big companies like KPMG, Jaguar Land Rover, Boeing, Rolls-Royce. Work with the university. A lot of our programmes are designed with industry advisory boards, so that means that the content is really relevant to the industry that you're looking to work in. Also, we have employers coming and mentoring our students, working with students on company projects, delivering guest lectures as part of modules. So it varies depending on the programme, but there is a lot of engagement with sort of important companies through the programmes. Could I have the next slide, please? So as I mentioned earlier, Leeds has over 9,000 international students, and we have a long tradition of welcoming international students to the university. So this means that we have dedicated international student support for everything from when you're applying to the programme right through to when you're arriving and studying on the programme. So we have, for example, a visa team who can help you with your visa applications free of charge. We offer a welcome and induction programme for international students specifically, which helps you to settle in and meet other people. Also support with practical things like setting up a bank account. All of our students have a personal tutor who supports them with their academic, professional and personal development throughout the programme. We also have a medical practice in the City of Leeds, specifically for students. So if you have medical needs, then that's really easy to access. And we also have specific support for students with disabilities. One important thing to mention, which is really sort of a centre of a lot of students' social lives during their studies, is our Students' Union. So this is an award-winning Students' Union and hosts more than 300 clubs and societies for our students to join. So whatever you're interested in, you will find a society for it, whether it be sports, music, drama, cultural societies, really a mix of everything. So you can pursue an existing interest or start something new. Could I have the next slide, please? Another thing that's really important for your kind of experience is our facilities. So we're constantly investing in our facilities. A lot of our architecture on campus is quite traditional, but we have been investing in very innovative spaces and resources for our students to use. So this will look different for every student, but things like new libraries being built, and we have a dedicated library for postgraduate students, computer rooms available 24/7, collaborative teaching spaces to allow our teachers to, our academics to teach students in a really interactive and like digital way. Also laboratories for students who are studying science with specialist facilities. We also have the last two things that you can see on that slide is our language centre, which provides support for students whose first language isn't English, so you can take free courses and workshops in things like developing your academic writing skills in English to give you the skills that you need to succeed on your programme. And also we have the Edge, which is our award-winning students' gym. So this has a 25-metre swimming pool, which was used by the Chinese swimming team during the London 2012 Olympics as their training venue, as well as fitness classes, and that's located on campus. So it's really handy for students who are interested in pursuing sport. Can I have the next slide, please? So one final thing that our students often ask about is accommodation. So we guarantee university accommodation to our international students for the duration of their programme. So that will be 1 year for a master's or 3 or 4 years for a PhD. There's a wide choice of accommodations, including self-catered, where you cook for yourself, or catered, where your meals are included, with a sort of range of costs to suit your particular budget. The membership to our student gym, the Edge, is included in the price of your accommodation, as well as all of your other bills like electricity and internet and water. So it makes life a lot more straightforward for international students who might not be as familiar with how those things work in the UK. There's a range of locations. So some of our accommodation is on campus and some of it is off campus, which means you get to see a different kind of area of the city. But as I mentioned before, Leeds is quite compact, so it's not too much of an issue if you have to if you live off campus, because you can normally walk to your classes still. We also have designated residences just for postgraduate students, which I think is really nice, because I think if you're a postgraduate and you're a little bit more mature, you possibly don't want to live with 18-year-olds who are just starting university for the first time. If you choose not to live in university accommodation, there's also lots of private sector housing and accommodation available in the city because of the quantity of students that live in Leeds. And the university can help and support you with finding the private accommodation as well. We have the next slide, please. So you can just see on here, again, this is the same map of our campus, and it highlights where some of our residences are. So all 4 of these residences are quite popular with international students. They have the next slide. And you can just see some examples of what the accommodation looks like. So again, a mixture of kind of traditional and modern architecture. So Central Village is much more modern, whereas Devonshire Hall has that more sort of traditional feel. And if you opt for private accommodation, what you will typically be living in is the picture on the right of the screen. So that is these kind of red brick terraced houses, which are very, very typical in Leeds and the north of England. Have the next slide, please. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of applying fees and funding. So if we could have the next slide. So all of this information is quite general. And once you've found a programme that you're interested in, you'll need to check the specific requirements for that programme. But for a master's degree, generally we ask for an average of 4 out of 5 from your undergraduate degree if you studied in a Columbian university. So generally we ask for an average of 4 out of 5. Some programs might ask for 3.5, but generally it's 4. And sometimes we require a specific background in certain subjects. So for example, if you want to study a master's in economics, you'll normally need a bachelor's in economics. If you want to study electronic engineering, you'll probably need a background in that area, which is logical. If you're considering a PhD, we're normally asked to see a good master's degree, with some research experience, and that's really important, so a thesis or a research project. Sometimes we accept students straight from their bachelor's degree, their undergraduate degree, onto a PhD, but again, we would be expecting to see your research experience. The other main requirement is English language. So we ask for a minimum of IELTS 6.5 with a 6 in each component. Again, sometimes that varies a little bit depending on the programme, but typically you're looking at 6.5, and we do accept other qualifications like Toefl if that's what you've already taken. Could I have the next slide, please? So the application process is quite straightforward. So the first thing to do is browse the course and find the course that you're interested in on our website. So that's courses.leeds.ac.uk. Check the application deadlines and the scholarship deadline. So sometimes if you want to apply to a scholarship from the university, the deadline might be a little bit earlier than the final application deadline. Check the requirements of your program. So those academic requirements that I showed you earlier, the 4 out of 5, is quite general, but check the specific requirements for your program. If there's any work experience requirement, for example, if you're looking at an MBA, there's a very specific work experience requirement, and the English requirement. Check the fees and the costs and any specific visa information. The application process is all online, and the documents that you need to upload are in the second box there. So your transcript in English and in the original version. Also your degree certificate if you've already finished your bachelor's degree. An IELTS certificate, but it's important to note that you can apply with or without the IELTS. So that depends on when you choose to take it, really. Your passport and your supporting statement, which is like your motivation letter for why you want to study the programme. We will then, your application will be processed by our admissions team, and they'll be in contact with you via the portal if they need any further information or if they want to invite you to an interview. We don't tend to interview for our master's programmes. Some programmes always do, like an MBA, and sometimes programmes will ask for an interview if they're not quite sure about something in your application, but generally most candidates don't interview for a master's. And we aim to process your application within 6 weeks of you applying. However, this can take longer sometimes, so my advice to students is once you know the programme that you want to apply for, apply as early as possible. Especially if you're considering applying to a source of funding like Futuro, it's good to have the application to the university done earlier so that you can focus on one at a time. Students tend to get quite stressed out if they're trying to do the funding application and the programme application and the English test all at the same time. So try and make yourself a timeline and apply to everything at different times. Decisions are received via email, so you'd either get an unsuccessful decision if your application's not been successful, a conditional offer if we're going to offer you a place but we still need you to meet an academic condition like finishing your bachelor's degree, or an English condition like the IELTS, or an unconditional offer if you already have your IELTS and your undergraduate degree finished, then your offer would be unconditional and you're ready to go. And all of that is managed through the portal. Could we have the next slide, please? If you're looking at a research degree, so a PhD, it's a slightly different process. So the website is on the screen that you need to look at our research areas. So when you're looking for a PhD, it's important for you to decide what area of research it is that you're interested in, and then to check if we have projects and academics in that area, because if we don't, Leeds isn't the right place for you to do that PhD if we've not got expertise in your area. Again, check the processes and requirements. Each school manages their process slightly differently for PhD. And often you'll be asked to write a research proposal for your PhD. It's also good to start investigating scholarships and potential sources of funding as you're looking at the areas that you want to apply to. The rest of the process is fairly similar, so it's a different portal, but it's the same documents that you need for a master's, plus a research proposal, an online application, and you will receive your decisions via email, and you can check in online. Could I have the next slide, please? So for fees for our programmes, you need to check the website there, courses.leeds.ac.uk, which will show you all of the most up-to-date fee for your programme in the year that you want to enter. So at the moment, our website is showing fees for this year, so you would need to check kind of later in the autumn, sort of September, October, to check fees for 2021. Typically, you're looking at between £20,000 and £30,000 for a one-year master's tuition fee. The fee is higher normally for science programmes than for humanities because of the laboratory work involved, and clinical programmes are often much more expensive. So for example, if you're looking at something like dentistry, that might be sort of £40,000, that is more expensive. The university does have scholarships for almost all of our subject areas, and these really range in terms of the amount, but also the process. So some scholarships you're automatically considered for by applying to the programme, and some of them require a separate application process. So if you find your programme and you can't find the specific scholarships, you can get in touch with me, and I can normally, sometimes they're a little bit difficult to dig out. They range from anything from sort of £2,000 right up to a full fee scholarship. So always check if there are university scholarships. Could I have the next slide, please? So Camila mentioned our agreement with Colfuturo at the beginning of the webinar. So we have an agreement with Colfuturo to offer a 20% discount on the tuition fee to all students who are selected for Colfuturo. In addition to this, we have one student per year for any program who receives a 50% discount on their tuition fees. So we normally select that student based on the strength of their academic profile. Then there are also additional 50% discounts for the programs that Camila mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. Often, if you apply to a university scholarship, you can combine this with Colfuturo funding. So for example, if you have a £5,000 scholarship from the university and then a 20% discount from us as well, that can really dramatically reduce the amount of the amount that you need to pay for your tuition fees with your Colfuturo funding. So just beware of this, because some faculties don't allow you to combine the two. So it's always good to double check, but the majority of our faculties do allow you to combine those different sources of funding. Can I have the next slide, please? And that's it from me for the moment. So I'm going to hand over to Juan for him to tell you a little bit about his experience at the university. Thank you.
Bueno, buenos días para todas las personas que están en Colombia. Por favor, la siguiente diapositiva. Bueno, lo primero es por qué elegí venir yo a Leeds. Ya, hay muchas razones por las cuales uno podría elegir Leeds y ahí, pues, Megan ya lo ha explicado muy bien. ¿Cuáles fueron mis razones? Primero, el Instituto para Estudios del Transporte. ¿Por qué? Porque el programa para mí era muy importante, pues muy interesante. Yo no soy ingeniero civil, soy ingeniero mecánico y para mí un programa multidisciplinario como el que ofrece ITS era muy interesante. Y además ITS tiene el reconocimiento y la calidad en Reino Unido y en Europa y en el mundo. Y pues esa fue esa fue la principal razón para venir. Por circunstancias de la vida yo ya conocía Leeds y conocía que era una ciudad en el norte muy bien ubicada, que es muy amable con los estudiantes, en la que el costo de vida es bastante más manejable que en otros lugares de Inglaterra. Y eso me llamó mucho la atención y jugó pues un papel importante a la hora de tomar la decisión. Y obviamente el costo del programa y el convenio con Colfuturo pues ayudaron a tomar la decisión, porque en el momento de preparar el proyecto con Colfuturo y de preparar el presupuesto, pues el dinero y el costo de la matrícula y cuánto voy a gastar durante todo el año, pues es importante. La siguiente diapositiva, por favor. Bueno, ¿cómo fue mi experiencia? Lo que a mí más me impactó fue el apoyo que se reciben desde diferentes lugares de la universidad. Desde que uno aterriza en Leeds, siente que esa transición es mucho más suave gracias al apoyo de la universidad. Todo empieza desde el momento en que uno llega a Leeds, en el que hay un grupo de personas que lo reciben a uno, le ayudan a llegar a donde se vaya a alojar. La primera semana es fundamental para las personas que van a venir. ¿Por qué? Porque en la semana de inducción uno aprende cuáles son todos esos servicios en los que la universidad lo puede ayudar a uno y a quién acudir en el momento en que uno necesite ayuda. Los servicios de la biblioteca también son muy importantes, no solamente por lo que uno esperaría de una biblioteca de tener una colección amplia y servicios de bases de datos amplias, sino porque ellos también le ofrecen a uno la posibilidad de tomar talleres para todas esas habilidades que uno puede estar, no sé, como uno puede estar flojo en escritura en inglés y ellos tienen una serie de talleres para aprender cómo se escriben los reportes, cómo se escriben los ensayos, cómo estructurar el trabajo de investigación durante la maestría. Incluso hay personas que le pueden ayudar a uno. Si uno tiene dificultades con estadística o con matemáticas, uno puede ir allá, hacer un booking de una cita con ellos por media hora y ellos lo pueden ayudar a uno. Y lo mismo con los docentes. Los docentes son personas que están trabajando en investigación relevante y que son además personas y investigadores reconocidos, no solamente en Reino Unido, sino a nivel mundial y que son muy accesibles a la hora de pedir apoyo. Las instalaciones, ya Megan ha hablado de eso, las bibliotecas, las salas de estudio, Para mí fueron muy útiles, por ejemplo, las salas de computadores que están abiertas las 24 horas del día, los 7 días de la semana, porque para mí era eh, mejor ir a estudiar en esas salas y tener como lugar de estudio la universidad y no tener que estudiar en la casa, y la universidad tiene todo para que uno pueda desarrollar todas las actividades que necesita. Lo que puede ser difícil para un estudiante colombiano tal vez, o al menos lo fue en mi caso, es la metodología es un poco diferente, entonces hay que apelar más a ser más autónomo y organizar mejor el tiempo. Y es porque, bueno, eso depende mucho del programa, pero hay que hacer 2 o 3 entregas al semestre, o una entrega al semestre y al final un examen, y eso lo obliga a uno a distribuir el tiempo de estudio a lo largo del semestre para no estar saturado al final con los exámenes. Y lo otro es la escala, porque estamos acostumbrados a una escala de 0 a 5, y aquí se maneja una escala de 0 a 100, y muchas veces cuesta entender cómo son las calificaciones, pero para eso también están las oficinas de servicios a estudiantes, están los profesores que son los que le entregan a uno el feedback de todos sus trabajos y de los exámenes, y bueno, eso son cosas que se van aprendiendo. ¿Puedes pasar a la siguiente, por favor? Hay, bueno, además de la experiencia académica, eh, el hecho de estudiar fuera de Colombia y en este caso estudiar en Leeds, le da a uno la oportunidad de estar en un ambiente muy diverso, en el que uno puede aprovechar muchísimas cosas. Las sociedades que están en el Union, como decía Megan, hay sociedades de todo, hay sociedades de fotografía, de astronomía, hay clubes deportivos, y si a uno le gusta el ciclismo, entonces se puede unir al club, a la sociedad bueno, el club de ciclismo. Hay un club de remo, hay a los que les gusta la discusión política, entonces pueden asistir a foros todas las semanas, y hay tantas actividades que muchas veces uno dice, caramba, ¿por qué no lo hice? Pero bueno, hay que aprovechar el tiempo. El, el otro tema de apoyo de la universidad está dado por el Career Center. Ellos le ayudan a uno si lo que quiere uno es hacer de repente una pasantía aquí en UK. Depende también mucho de las escuelas y de los tipos de programas que tengan. Pero el Career Center tiene esos servicios de apoyo para preparar la hoja de vida, las aplicaciones. Ellos organizan ferias de empleo. Muchas veces las escuelas organizan ferias de empleo para los estudiantes de esa escuela particular, que es como yo conseguí el trabajo en el que estoy actualmente, y estoy pues en mi periodo de gracia y estoy haciendo pues un periodo, un trabajo que me permita obtener experiencia internacional. Hay otras actividades que ofrece el Union, como el Get Out, Get Active, que son actividades, caminatas, normalmente en las zonas cercanas a Leeds. Estamos en un condado que tiene mucha área rural, y que le permite a uno explorar. Es muy fácil caminar en Inglaterra, como hiking, hacer senderismo. JobLink, ya Megan lo ha dicho, y el Union, bueno, tiene el pub, que es el lugar a veces donde socializar y conocer más gente. La siguiente diapositiva, por favor. ¿Cómo es vivir en Leeds? Bueno, el transporte es bastante sencillo. Uno puede escoger moverse en bici, en bus o en caminar. La ciudad no es muy grande, y normalmente los estudiantes vivimos cerca a la universidad. La persona que vive más lejos podría vivir, no sé, media hora caminando, y en bici eh, eso se reduce a 10 o 15 minutos. La universidad además tiene un servicio de alquiler de bicicletas con el Bike Hub, que es bastante económico. Eh, y los buses también, si uno llegase a decidir tomar el bus todos los días, pues también son una opción. hay servicios hacia la universidad todo el tiempo, pero normalmente lo que hacen los estudiantes es caminar o usar la bici. El clima, bueno, no es muy frío, tal vez es un poco como Bogotá, puede ser lluvioso y nublado. Eh, Creo que en invierno no bajan las temperaturas, o el invierno pasado no bajaron a menos de -2 grados, pero el viento sí hace que la sensación térmica sea pues menor, entonces es simplemente conseguir un buen abrigo y ya. La comida, bueno, hay opciones de todo tipo. Si de repente a uno le da nostalgia eh, gastronómica, se consigue yuca, plátano, harina de arepas, harina de maíz para hacer arepas. O uno puede ir por las opciones locales como el fish and chips, el curry o el Sunday roast. Viajar es muy sencillo desde Leeds. Las conexiones por tren eh, son muy buenas. Leeds es, aparte de las estaciones de Londres, es la estación de UK que más tráfico de trenes tiene y está muy bien conectada. Están los dos aeropuertos cercanos. Hay opciones también si uno quisiera de repente para moverse en bus, que sale un poco más económico. Y pues a la hora de planear un fin de semana fuera, pues está muy bien. Las actividades en la ciudad, bueno, hay eventos deportivos todo el año. Está el estadio de cricket y de rugby en Headingley. Está el estadio de Leeds United, que seguramente va a tener partidos de la Premier League en la siguiente temporada. Hay festivales de cine, festivales de música, festivales de vino, de cerveza. La escena musical es bien conocida en Leeds. En la zona estudiantil hay muchos lugares donde se puede ir a conciertos y está muy bien. Y para la gente que le gusta la música, seguramente va a encontrar algo. También hay festivales de teatro, eh, eventos deportivos y actividades deportivas. Yo tuve la oportunidad de hacer parte del equipo local de básquetbol en silla de ruedas y practicar con ellos, no sé, durante 6 meses y fue una experiencia muy agradable. Realmente vale la pena venir a Leeds para todas las personas que tienen dudas, que quieren saber cómo es, no sé, la acomodación, eh, hay cosas particulares. Megan ya lo va a decir, pero contáctense con las personas de Link to Leeds, que ellos siempre van a estar, pues son estudiantes y son personas que lo están viviendo y que pueden encontrar la forma de darles la información que ustedes necesiten. Creo que ya aquí acabo. Megan, I'll
Thank
pass.
you very much. That was really useful. So yeah, as Juan mentioned at the end of his talk, we have our current students, which is just the final thing that I wanted to say before we take your questions. So we have around 50 student ambassadors currently who are all current international students, and you can contact them via email, Skype, instant messaging, or social media. If you go to the website that's at the bottom of the slide there, you can find their contact details. We currently have 2 Colombians who are ambassadors with us. So Juanita, who is studying a master's in international communication, and Catalina, who's studying a bachelor's degree in international business. But we also have students from Mexico, Chile, and Argentina at the moment. So if you're interested in speaking in Spanish with somebody, then there's lots of options there. Also good to find somebody who's from your particular program. So that's a really useful resource because I could say anything, but they will be very honest with you about their experience at Leeds. So I think we're ready for the final slide. If we could just move on. Yeah, so that's the end of our presentation. Thank you very much everyone for joining, and thank you to Juan for joining us to share his experience at the university and the experience of staying in the UK afterwards to work, which is something that's really exciting for international students to be able to do. Our email is on the slide there, as well as our social media. So if you have any questions, you can contact us through those ways. And if you mention that you're from Colombia, it will make its way to me and I'll be able to help you. So I don't know if there's any questions that you'd like to put to us now, Camila?
Yes, Megan, thank you so much for the presentation, and Juan Pablo, thank you for sharing your experience. We will now be asking the questions. there are a lot of questions, so we're gonna be going through the most repeated ones. So the first one is from Christian, and he wants to know, are the deadlines changed due to COVID?
So the deadline for applying to the programme, so what we've done in terms of the pandemic is all our current students have been studying online since March this year. Some of our programmes are starting in September as planned, so the deadlines for those have been the normal deadlines for international students, which is normally around June. There are some of our master's programmes have moved to a January start date to try and give students more flexibility, and for those programmes the deadlines have sometimes been extended until the end of September. For most of the students who are here today who are looking at September 2021, normally the final deadline for your programmes will be at the end of June or the end of July next year. So you do have plenty of time to apply, but I think the earlier you can apply, the better, because it means you have more time to focus on your scholarship applications and any other documents you need to get.
Thank you, Megan. The next question is from Andres, and it's for Juan Pablo. And he says, I'm interested to apply to the Master in Science Transport Economics. Could I contact you for more details about the ITS? Juan Pablo, we cannot listen. You have your microphone off.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I have already sent Andres my contact details, but yeah, you can reach out the school if you need like a specific, if you have a specific questions about the programs. And there's also student ambassadors in Link to Leeds from almost every school. So it is not just for the ITS, like people interested in ITS, is for everyone. Go to Link to Leeds and check that.
Okay. Michael wants to know, what's the minimum TOEFL score?
So if you're taking the Toefl IBT, the internet-based test, we normally ask for 92 for a master's programme, I believe, with specific scores. If you want to send me an email afterwards, Michael, to the international office email, then I can send you a link to our entry requirements page, which lists all of the accepted English tests and the scores that we require in each one. Yeah.
Great. Sergio wants to know, how have the facilities adapted to the virtual classes?
Yeah, so I've been speaking to our current students about this because it's obviously been a big adaptation for our students going suddenly online since March, and then also looking at developing programs to be partially online this year. So we are hoping to do some as much face-to-face teaching as possible, but obviously some larger activities will happen online because of the government guidance. I think generally the response of our students has been positive. A lot of students have said to me that it's been better than they expected studying online. They were quite worried about it.